Good afternoon, everyone. What a day this has been. It has been so nice, so intense, so rich. I have the privilege of giving some closing remarks and to leave you with some reflections as we come to the end of this Caribbean Agri-Food Investors Conference. Before doing that, and before I forget, at the end, when I'm finished, you are welcome to go to the networking facility, to the cocktail. It is called. It will be a virtual one in case you want to hook up and link with the other participants available. Well, let me just make allude to what Dr. Clark said at the beginning this morning about the objectives of this conference. She spoke about synergizing. She spoke about expanding our engagement and particularly with potential some of the potential investors that were invited here. We need really we are in a quest in this quest to identify interested investors and to understand what are the conditions under which they would invest in our initiative. And also, we wanted to be able to develop some sort of model that meets both the needs of the investors, but also, the realities of the small scale farmers, the fishers, and their associations. And I will jump immediately to one remark that the Honorable President Irfan Ali said. These business models, he said, have to meet the conditions of the investors, you have to meet conditions of the producer, and have to meet the conditions of the country. So this issue of engagement, of positive engagement and inclusion is very important. He alluded also to the issue of youth and women. So that's what we set ourselves out to do. In there, I think that we have by far, matched what you can do in one day of virtual meetings. I have been impressed really by the entrepreneurship, by the drive, by the passion of all speakers, and several key messages come through. Minister Zulfikar from Guyana spoke to us about how crucial it is for all agri-food players to work in unison if we are to achieve this 25 times 25 strategy that has been alluded so many times. It was also very enlightening to hear President Ali to explain his vision about the need to think of an integrated food system that considers all the elements and not only looks at production. That we have to overcome this narrow view of agriculture that needs to be changed to look at the sector more from opportunities to transform it. We also, when we speak about investments, we need these models that we want to create to really be beneficial for all. Something that came very often among all the ministers that were presenting as the challenges, they all concluded that the whole issue of transport and logistics is one of the greatest blockage for intra-regional trade, and that we need and we want to create, these type of facilities. Some call it regional hub, where we can actually aggregate. They spoke about storage, about cold chains that can put us in a much better position than than the one that we were when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. To have some capacity, some resilience to respond to that kind of initiative. They also spoke about the need. If we think in Caribbean, they said that the Caribbean has all these niche products and that we need to go and emphasize on specialized products. If we want to do this, we also need to be consistent and think of specialized services in terms of technology, in terms of financial services, in terms of other access to services to develop the specific value chains. And not less important, it was highlighted the issue of the nutritional value of foods and how this needs to be integrated into food production, but also linked into educational programs. This is a must if we are to secure Caribbean food and nutrition security. The president also highlighted that the time is right. He expressed, he conveyed an invitation for investors to come because the time is right, not only because it's urgent, that we address these issues, but because there is political consensus and there are incentives, at the higher level of decision making. Also, the global demand for food is not
Yes, you're
decreasing,
so
and
happy.
the region is as dynamic as ever. You would have heard from several of the participants that that the region has never been in a situation in terms of the dynamism of the sector. Um, I like to start to bring it to a close by saying that the importance of the participation of the investors. We saw it was very interesting to hear the IDV saying that an overarching kind of framework, or guiding framework was that of food security. That they are interested in projects related to boost productivity and to facilitate food trade. Projects that can also help to enhance household purchasing power and to raise the nutritional level, access to water, projects that make agribusiness less vulnerable to climate change. So it is very important to hear development banks saying that that these are criteria that are guiding their investment decisions. Also from the Republic Bank, the idea of that he conveyed, Mr. Grell conveyed about the farm to table idea gaining a lot of traction. They use the idea of being closer to the sources of production. Um, and also their flexibility and their approach to say, when you have a business, we can talk about it. You want to assist in better understanding what the business is, how does it work, and what is that is really needed. Then also on the approaches to investment, I like to highlight this issue of raised by Dr. Antoine from the CPSO when he said that it is important that whatever we are putting our efforts on be based on on very objective criteria, on data, on understanding what the business models are, on understanding what are the competitive advantage of each of the countries, and that there are a lot of effort that needs to be put to it. He did mention, I like to highlight this, that one of the critical areas, if we want to address those many opportunities in several of the sectors, and I think he was speaking specifically about poultry, but perhaps others, was the issue of the cost of feed. Well, I was very happy in the different initiatives that were presented to see at least a couple mentioned when Dr. Clark talked about the insect breeding program and the potential of producing feed for aquaculture, or when Mr. Lashley spoke about the fish silage, and the potential that there is, although Shoreliness is looking for producing fertilizer from the right feed, there's also this potential also for animal feed. So I think that is an example of a possibility of how this critical binding constraint of the cost of feed plays in the whole equation. It was enlightening almost to bring it to a close to hear the young people, the entrepreneurs speak. I mean, see digital markets come speak about coming from £1 to £1 million, speak about the social enterprise incubation from the green market, speak about the reincorporation of youth, from the other organization from Trinidad, and also was impressed to see the detailedness and the advances made in the area of spices by Jacra in Jamaica. In summary, I like to say that I'm really pleased. This was really, I think, a successful event. I'd just like to close to say that if we are to realize the full potential of agriculture in the region, we really need to, and using some of the elements conveyed already by our speakers, we need to move away from this traditional and fragmented approach that focus too narrowly on production. We need to have this a more solid understanding and understanding and dissemination of what profitable business models would look like and what would be concrete market opportunities that could attract eventual investment. The agricultural sector with those elements is like a car without an engine. It's not moving anywhere. We need to adopt really and openly these market evidence-based food system approaches that can emphasize how we can connect the dots along the whole system, along the value chain, using data-based planning, developing feasible and viable business solutions to the existing problems, and most importantly, coordinating, collaborating to create joint action uh, as a way of following a more effective pathway to reach the ultimate goal, which is to raise incomes, reduce poverty, and transform the agricultural sector for the future. With that, I really congratulate you. I thank you for your patience and for your participation and your inputs. And we will continue for here. You will hear more from the organizers from 17 Asset Management, the materials, the recordings. And I'd like to bring this to a close and invite you to the networking activity.